Welcome to Here's What I Learned, a podcast for building a hustle-free, wildly successful coaching business. I'm your host, Jackie Hayes, launch strategist and certified online business manager with an obsession for superheroes and a thorough understanding of chicken math. Join my guests and I as we explore the ins and outs of building a feminist coaching business that embraces both mindset and strategy. Now on to this week's episode. I'm here today with Rachel Nelson, who is a grief guide and death doula. Rachel, welcome. Can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, I'm Rachel Nelson, and like Jackie just said, I'm a grief guide. So I support people in their grieving process and also a death doula. So I support end-of-life care, not necessarily in the medical side, but really the emotional well-being kind of planning side of that transition.
And how did you get into that?
Through my own journey. The loss of my first son is kind of what put me really into more doing grief work and support and studying that. And I kind of knew I always wanted to move into more end of life care, but not necessarily on the medical side. And I finally just kind of did it. So my own journey brought me all to it.
Now, before we start really with a lot of the questions, the deep dive on things, I like to start off with a rapid fire style question so people can get an idea of who you are as a person. And this question is, if you were to be stranded on a deserted island just for 2 weeks, all by yourself, with no internet access or cell phone service, what 3 things would you bring with you?
Can I bring my dog?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would bring my dog for comfort, support, playing, all of those things. Just, my dog. I think I would bring, let's see, probably a book. And right now it would be Being Mortal by Atula Grande. Oh my God, I never can say their name. Atula Grande. That is just such a beautiful, comprehensive book, and I can read it over and over again. And it's about life and death and some of the scientific aspects of both, but also a lot of spiritual aspects. And I always get so much out of that book. And I'd probably, you said a desert island?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it could be tropical, but there's no hotels or.
There's no hotels. I'd bring a sup. I'd bring like a stand-up paddleboard so I could just go out in the ocean and swim with the dolphins and stuff like that.
I would bring mine as well. I would be bringing mine as well. That would be like the top of the list. So
totally.
Books and a paddleboard. Yep.
Yeah.
When you reached out to me, oh my goodness, when was that? March? February?
I think it was end of February.
Yeah, I think so.
March, end of February or early March?
Somewhere in there. Sometime this spring. You were getting ready. Time, we have no concept of it, especially since COVID. You were getting ready to launch a group program. Can you first tell me about what you were envisioning for that group and then why you reached out to me?
Well, what I was envisioning for the group is, because of the work I do, I like to keep it very small and intimate and not be overwhelming for people. So I'd had this vision for a small group course for probably the past year, but just hadn't kind of gathered my content fully or had felt, I don't like to say ready, but just like the timing just hadn't been quite set up yet. And so when I reached out, I knew I had this vision. I knew I wanted it to be in one of the newer platforms so it doesn't it's not like all over the place. We're not like communicating in Facebook and then having to go to this other place and then I wanted it all to live in one place. So I had this vision for it to be a really easy place for people to navigate given what they're going through, and everything lives in one place and a small and intimate group that they can really interact in a way that feels best for them. And okay, say the second part of the question again to reset my brain.
So that was what you were envisioning for your group. So then why did you reach out to me once you had that vision in place?
I mean, in my 40 years, I still am learning about myself, but one thing I very much know is that logistics of things aren't my strong point. I'm just not like super good at organizing logistics and all of the kind of organizational systems and setup tasks. And I knew I really wanted to hire someone to help me set up the foundation for this group, because I'm holding it multiple times a year. And I think through other people within like the coaching industry, since I kind of came into this, I was a coach before I came into this work, I'd seen them post about you or recommend you, or they've been using you. And so I was like, I went on your site and you were like, I help you organize your group program. And I was like, that's exactly what I need. I wanted someone to not just do all the work, but help my brain get in the right space for all the work that goes into a launch. And also for me, not feel alone in it. When I'm like alone and overwhelmed, I just stop doing it. And I was like, I know I don't have some help. It will just never be put into the world. And I really wanted this work in the world. So
a little bit of accountability so you're not buffering on the couch all day long.
Exactly. Like I probably would have like started ClickUp and then got overwhelmed and just been like, oh, bye, never mind.
I tried. I tried.
Yes.
And one thing that we laughed about throughout your entire launch was that you happened to plan it right during a Mercury retrograde. So we had lots of fun with that.
Oh, yeah, we did. There was some little things, nothing major, but definitely things happened during that time. And again, like if I hadn't had your support, yeah, I would have probably given up. And I had lots of other stuff going on in my life. And so it just having that extra support, given some of the other life circumstances I was dealing with, just felt so good to know I could focus on some of those circumstances and still be putting this work out and launching something at the same time.
I know that was a conversation we had on one of our very first work days, is that you mentioned these life events that were happening. And I was like, are you sure this is the right time for this? And I remember you very distinctly saying, no, I know that this is the right time to do this. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to like put it into words, but I just something within my intuition, my gut knew that it was the exact right time. And if I'm to look at it in a more of a practical way, it was like, okay, it's, before summer really starts. So in that kind of funky place where people are just like, I don't know what to do with myself because the weather's weird and I can't go outside. And so I think that had a play into it too, like looking at that. And it was just like, the work was ready. I had all the content and I didn't want to wait for the perfect circumstances, because also that's not life. And that the longer I waited, it just wouldn't have the same effect as if I just went through it and kind of learned for the other courses that will come. Yeah.
I think it says a lot too of like, even if there are a lot of life things happening, because life things are going to be happening all the time, and you can plan for a launch to happen when nothing is supposedly happening and something will come up. So
Exactly.
having that support on hand, whether that is somebody who is with you on a retainer for the long term, or just bringing in somebody to help you with this one project, makes it so much more manageable to get it all done,
Yes.
even if life is being life all around you.
Totally. Totally. And I was just so grateful for all of that because, yeah, I just, and kind of given the other circumstances I was dealing with, it was also like, I need to put this into the world right now to move some things forward for myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I like how you talked about it made you feel like you weren't alone in the whole launch process.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking of the Voxer messages that would go back and forth between the two of us, and some of them were just ridiculous. And sometimes we were just
Yeah.
saying hi to each other for no other reason. It was just like somebody else knows what's going on. This is, what life is.
Yes.
So
That was so nice to have that too. And to just, even if I knew you weren't going to answer, I could be like, blah, blah, blah. This is how the launch feels today.
So let's talk a little bit about the process that we did. So we had 3 days where we got on Zoom, not 3 days in a row, thankfully. I don't think either one of us could have survived
No,
that.
I don't think we could do that.
We barely survived the week apart of each of those.
Yes.
So we got on Zoom for a day at a time to kind of work through a lot of the details of the launch, but also the program. What were those work days like for you? Other than, all day Zoom calls are exhausting, but
Yeah. They were honestly, they were great. It felt actually really good for me to just kind of, especially like my ADHD brain, to put my attention on it and focus in. It actually felt really good, and it helped me gain a lot more clarity and confidence in my course and in the launch versus like small little snippet calls. I think would have been harder for me to navigate or then set aside time to do the things I needed to do for the launch. So I really liked those work days, and also being able to spend some time like without other time constraints, talking through things. That I think, as I'm kind of saying that to you, felt so good to know that like we could spend some time like really talking through certain aspects, and maybe not necessarily, maybe if it doesn't need a solution right away, at least we've like spent time on it without being like, oh shit, time's up, we gotta go.
Well, and I know, like, I think it was probably the second, and then on the third days, there was a lot of times where we were on Zoom, but we weren't actually, like, we didn't have cameras on, we didn't have sound on. Like, you were
Yes.
off, right? Because you wrote all your launch content. You didn't work with a copywriter, so you wrote all your emails, your Instagram posts, and you would be writing those because we had come up with kind of a plan, an outline, or a calendar of like when you were going to post things, and then you were off writing.
Yes.
And I would just be doing something else, like setting up your my networks or whatever it happened to be. And we check in like every half hour, an hour, and we'd like see where each other was. We'd bounce ideas back and forth. You'd ask questions, I'd ask questions for clarity. But it very much was a day set aside. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Because I don't know if you're anything like me, but I can block it on my calendar, but I kind of find all kinds of reasons to just ignore it.
I'm like that too. I said I'd do this, but I really am going to go do this instead.
Yeah, so I felt those days when it was just really just co-working sessions is really kind of what those were.
I liked that. I actually liked that because it kept my brain focused. I remember kind of being like, hey, Jackie, how does this sound? Or like you just said, bouncing little things off of each other. I liked those kind of co-working sessions for sure.
So some of the things that I helped you with was the kind of coming up with a launch plan, like a strategic plan for it, but then also figuring out like your promotional schedule and helping you come up with some of the content with that, brainstorming that, helping you set up your Mighty networks. And then once you had your content written, I helped you schedule that and upload that into your email marketing system.
Yeah.
So I took a lot of the day-to-day behind the scenes off the plate for you. What did that give you space for then, knowing that you didn't have to do that?
Well, it gave me space to kind of hone, because I like to do all my copywriting. It gave me space to do that and to kind of feel into everything daily, instead of I'm a person who likes having a plan, but also knows that there's times you have to deviate or adjust. And so it took pressure off in ways that I wasn't really aware of until we were kind of in it. I was just like, oh, like Jackie's put these in Planoly. Like I just have to write it and get it to her, and I don't have to, worry about much else. I could throw up a story I just have to do a story on Instagram today if I feel like it. There were days I didn't feel like it, and I just would repost the, post and write a few things. So it just felt like so much less pressure. And that also I could, I don't cold message people, but if people were messaging me about it or something, I had the time and space to also like connect with them about the course and about grief even, or just their grief, whether or not they join the course or not.
So let's talk a little bit about that. If I felt like it. So we had a plan for when you would be posting things, and we pre-wrote and pre-scheduled all the feed posts, but then you were going to do stories and reels, kind of, we had a plan for them. But then after you had launched everything, you had posted in a Facebook group that we were both in. I am going to read this for everybody so they kind of have an understanding of what that post is. And it starts off with, proof consistency is BS. I didn't post to social media other than daily life in my IG stories for almost 4 months. No post, no offers, nada, on purpose, by the way. In March, I launched my first group program and hired help to do it. Created a launch plan, didn't follow the exact plan either. Didn't stress out about the launch, okay, maybe a tiny bit, but really not much because I had some other major life shit happening. Group filled up, not quite sold out, but very close. Have systems and foundation in place for more groups and programs to come. And have not posted a single thing since cart closed. And people are asking when the next group is. Consistency is a made-up patriarchal bullshit thing that keeps us in a box. I know my group course and my work is important, needed, and I love it. When I do sell it, I sell it with my whole heart. Can you talk about that post and what you mean by all of that?
Yeah. Well, there's so much. Well, I think we're often sold this whole thing of like, it will work if you're just consistent enough. And, it almost, that to me creates this really weird internalized pressure. And I mean, I'm not going to spend like an hour breaking down consistency either, because like we could, but we're not going to. But we're sold this whole thing where I need to post every day or people are going to forget about me, or I need to add value to people's lives consistently for them to want to buy anything from me. And I just didn't want to buy into any of that for this launch. And I think it was like that post that I posted that you just read is so clear. Like, you don't have to, I posted to IG stories for, before, and I still am. I haven't done any of the feed posts, right? So like you could also attribute things to algorithms and all of that, blah, 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 which change so often. It's like, who knows?
Yeah.
But I really think it comes down to I just was like, I know this work is needed. I know what I have will benefit people right now in their grief. And I want to share it with people. I don't need anyone to buy it. I don't need, like, I didn't have any thoughts around, like, I need this to work. It has to work. It was just like, I already know it works. And even if 3 people join for this first one, it will still be successful because they're going to know how to navigate their own grief. And that's going to shift and help them the rest of their life. And so I think it was just a lot more about that versus I need to sell it out. And it's only going to be a successful launch if it's sold out and if this many people are interacting or like this. And they're only going to know about it because I've posted every day for the last year. Like, and that for me, it's just too much. It's like, kind of like my course is called Welcoming the Waves of Grief. And I feel like we all go through certain waves where it's like we have this push and big up and then kind of down and time to rest. And that's how I work best. And I've really learned that. And I think I'm learning that about my marketing too. Is like, I don't need to be consistent. I can set times when a course is coming up, but the whole consistency thing, it's like, just break it down within yourself. And if it's causing too much pressure, maybe just like reconsider what consistency would mean to you. Yeah.
I think 2 things. One is, and NASA says this, you have a plan, but you expect that you're going to change the plan.
Yes.
Because things happen. The second thing is, I do think consistency matters, but I don't think it's in the way that we all think it does. I think consistency, and what you said there is, I show up with my whole heart. When you consistently show up as you with your whole heart, that matters a whole lot more than making sure that you're showing up every single day.
Exactly.
If you're showing up every single day and feeling pressured, you're not going to be showing up as your whole self with your whole heart. You're going to be stressed, and people are going to read that. But if you're showing up when you can and when you're your best self, or mildly your best self, that matters a whole lot more. That consistency is far more important.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
So let's talk about some of the things you learned and like some of your big ahas and lessons that you're going to take with you into your next launch.
Well, I mean, it's funny enough that I mentioned it, and I think you and I talked about it on our like final kind of completion call, but like taking into consideration the algorithm and how, I mainly use Instagram. I utilized Facebook because I have a large following on there, but I literally never post on it. But I wanted to kind of hone in on one and check out the algorithm and see how they've changed it and what's working for people now. And so kind of learning a little bit more about those things is something I'd like to put more, I guess, focus on next time when I'm, have the dates ready for the next courses. And also, what else did we say? I'm trying to remember. I think I learned, when you say it so well, it's like, it can be totally hustle free. Like I didn't feel like I was hustling for anything. I was just like, this is important and the right people are going to come. And I learned that it's possible to have ease and trust, and I guess the right word is love, when like launching something or putting new work out into the world and marketing it. It doesn't have to be stressful, especially if you like get the right people to help you.
And you don't have to be sleazy salesman type. When you know that what you're offering to people is truly going to help them, you're not selling them. You're offering them something that can support them in living a better life.
Yes. And I think that one of the like little logistical things I learned too is just always giving the most information you can, a lot, so that people can make the best decision for themselves, like without even being like, you have to buy it now, there's only 3 spaces left. It's just like, hey, this is the information, this is, this is how it could help you, and not being pressury, but just giving the information. And you've been kind of posting about it lately too, is just like, because then it's more consent based, like, here's the information, you get to choose. Mm-hmm. And that choice and that consent is so important. And just people's brains want the information so that they can know, oh wow, this round works for me, or it doesn't. I'll get on for the next time.
Well, and that's one thing that you talked about doing this next time around, well, in the future with all your future launches, that I thought was a really great idea, was that you would post like, I'm doing these this time frame and this time frame and this time frame. Get on the list for which one works best for you. If this time doesn't work well for you for whatever reason, don't worry. Here's the next ones that are coming up, so that people aren't feeling like, oh, I got to do it now, especially when they're in a grief process. You don't want to add scarcity and all of that to the whole thing.
No.
But in general in life, you don't want to make people feel like, oh, if I don't do it now, I'm going to miss out forever. My best life is just, there it went, because she's only offering it this one time. But be like, okay, this time doesn't work out, but don't worry, here's the next 3 dates. You can get on the wait list, and I'll let you know when registration opens. And having that right there on the sales page, which I thought was also very equitable. So that if people can't afford it right now, they can start planning ahead and having the funds available down the road.
Yeah. And it's, it's something I really investigated, because I think there's, within certain industries, that pressure, and it doesn't feel, like you just said, equitable. When it's like, well, we're not going to release the next dates until this time. And like, for me, like, it's not that I like to plan ahead so much, but like, my life requires it. I have a son, he is type 1 diabetic. Like, there's a lot going on in my life because of that and other circumstances. And I have to plan. And when people when I started doing my death doula training, and they had, you can do a self-study course, you can do it in a group, here are all of our dates for the next year. Like, that felt so caring to me, so that I can be like, oh, I could plan ahead for this and sign up for this one, and I can make it work at that time. And I want other people to have that ability too, and that equity and knowing when, and timing, and payment plans. And that is so, I think, important in also dismantling some of the systems that cause a lot of harm too.
Yeah, I think about all the times in my life, especially when my son was still living at home. He's grown and gone now, but like summer camps time would be coming up, and I'm like, I can't plan my life because I don't know when summer camp dates are.
Yes.
Or just little things, like I have a work event coming up, but they're holding it maybe in this 3-week time frame. So the rest of my life has to be on hold until I know when that 3-week time frame gets nailed down to 3 days. So.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'd want to also talk about you offering a payment plan, and why, because I know some coaches are like, nope, you pay up front. That's how you show your commitment. You pay it all. Why did you choose to do a payment plan?
I mean, same word comes up, like equity. It is not, if you look at our systems within our country of the United States of oppression and all the people that are affected by it, it could take some people years to save up a certain amount of money to do a program like that. And they don't have access to credit cards. They don't have a mortgage. They're barely paying rent. Like, I don't think it creates an equitable system for people to say, this is how much it is, and there's no payment plan available, figure it out. It feels abusive and harmful, in my opinion, to do that. And especially given the work that I'm doing around grief and end of life care, there's so much there that people get left in the margins all the time around that stuff. And I want this work to be available to people if they need it. And so it's why I really offer payment plans, offer scholarships, like work with people so that they can get the work and the help that they need, especially with the grief, the death, the losses they're going through. It shouldn't be only available to people who can afford a few $1,000s all up front. It shouldn't be available to just those people. It should be available to everybody.
Can you tell everybody what your course is, what they would expect in it?
So it's called Welcoming the Waves of Grief, and it's a 6-week course, and we just deep dive into how each person grieves uniquely and how to really understand your own unique grief process and use that to help you through your grief and your loss. There's no mandatory anything. Everything's recorded. So if people are having a hard grief day or, life is happening, they can come and watch the recordings. So yeah, it's really cool. We do, every week is a different module, a different kind of specific way to look at yourself and relationship to your grief, tools to try on. One of the modules is like deconstructing internalized patriarchy, disenfranchised grief, things like that, so that we see how all of the external things impact our grief also, because it's a very internalized process, and that's important, but also seeing how external factors affect us and our grief and how we're grieving. So that's the course, and yeah, I love it. And I continue to build on it, especially as I build my death doula practice and my end of life practice as well.
Launching this course and running this course, what did you learn about yourself as a guide, and what did you learn about yourself as a business owner?
Oh, those are good. As a guide, I always learn just how important it is to just listen to people. As part of my group courses right now, I offer one 30-minute one-on-one session, and most of the time people just want to be heard, and they want their grief to be heard and acknowledged. And I'm just constantly reminded of that every time I'm working with a group of people, that so much is there. They just want to be seen and heard and acknowledged when they're grieving. And yeah, I learned that all the time, I think. And as a business owner, that group courses, group programs are not for everybody, but if you're feeling called to it, it's so fulfilling and so amazing to have people come together. As you know, I don't like the word community. For many reasons. That's another podcast episode probably. But it's so nice for people, even if they're like, they never see each other again, to not feel alone. And I always want to have a space, especially with this work that I do, for people to not feel alone in their process, even if it's a completely different grief that they're experiencing than someone else.
And then that brings me to a couple questions about the program. One is it intended for specific types of grief or experiences with grief? And is there a time on this, like the event happened just 6 months ago, or the event happened 10 years ago? Where, what's the fit on that?
Yeah. Well, it's not reserved. It's not like exclusive. It's not exclusive to like just human loss. It's really for, if you're experiencing any kind of grief, you're always welcome. So in this group, I had a divorce that was pretty recent, a child loss that was a few years back, and a very recent husband and father loss. And I purposefully try not to like, what's the word? Like hone in on one and only talk about that for the entire course. It's like wanting to really be inclusive to everybody, because there's so much crossover no matter what loss you're experiencing, even if it's pet loss or job loss. So right now it's a broad spectrum of grief. I do find that it's helpful to anyone if their grief, if their loss is still very fresh, and people benefit from the course and this work a little bit more 6 months and beyond. The first 6 months are rough, and that's where I will guide people to either therapy or maybe one-on-one work, either with me or somebody else. But I think that and it's mainly because of the brain, which I talk about in my course, that the brain just isn't cognitively functioning super well in those first 6 months. And so after 6 months and beyond, it's more absorbable and applicable than in the first 6 months, but it's still beneficial. I had I had a family, and it still benefited them deeply, because they can use the work from now on. So yeah, that's kind of the parameters ish.
If you were to be talking to somebody else who was thinking, they had a twinkling of an idea of a group course or coaching program or whatever it happened to be along the lines of a group that they might want to get started, what kind of advice would you give them?
I think there's so many factors, but like I said earlier, you don't have to wait until all the circumstances are right. You just have to know it's the right time for you. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, stuff was crazy in my life, but I knew it was the right time for me to do this, and listening to that and trusting that kind of intuitive sense and knowing, I think is the most beneficial thing you can do. Yeah.
So we've talked about how you don't consistently show up on social media, but if people were to want to find you, especially if they want to be able to sign up for future courses, where can they find you?
My Instagram is Rachel Nelson _, just all one word, Rachel Nelson, just the _. That's where I'm at. I almost said consistently. I post to my IG stories a lot. Like, that's kind of where I like to have the most fun. And yeah, all of my info is there, and my links too. And there's a link to my sales page that will have the dates for all the next courses and any other work that I'm going to start to put out there too, with end of life care, end of life planning, things like that. So that's where people can find me.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie.
And that's it for today's episode. Please be sure to share it and leave a review. For show notes and transcripts, visit jackiehayes.me. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to my email list. You'll receive weekly launch strategy tips straight to your inbox, plus access to my launch strategy resource library. Thanks for joining. Until next time, keep on learning.